Ethan's even admitting that it was cut to make it seem like Jimmy learned a lesson when in reality, he most likely didn't learn a lesson. What is this finessing? Is there the unedited clip of it? This is dark. Okay, so I don't know if Ethan Klein did anything in particular that made Aubrey post this video about his bad experience on the H3 podcast, but I think it's fair to start criticizing Ethan for his recent action. So let's just take a look at the podcast appearance. One thing that we can go back to is how he's talking about he was brought on as a joke or these two comedians.
Educational a little, but I was coming on to be it.
So we can just take a look at this and said before we brought him on, they played a compilation of him being afraid of little people. So we'll see if we can find the compilation. Okay, so this is a compilation of this comedian friend that Ethan knows is kind of an asshole and kind of a bigot, and Ethan brings him on to make these offensive jokes. And I think this is something that a lot of content creators will do, where they will talk about kind of taboo stuff, but they'll do it in a way that's ironic and kind of above it. So they're not personally espousing these views, they're just talking about these views. And I see it a lot in religious circles, where a guy who's ostensibly religious and has these deeply held convictions, they love talking about sex, and they love talking about who should have, where they should have, when they should have, how you should have. They are obsessed with talking about, and they'll be obsessed with talking about gay. But they do it from a position of, I'm above it all, I'm just discussing this from an intellectual perspective. And I think this is something that Ethan Klein does with this guy who does bigoted jokes. They're like, well, no, I'm not laughing at the bigoted jokes, I'm laughing at the person. And the joke is, isn't it funny we are ironically platforming this bigoted comedian? The joke is that we have this comedian that's bigoted, but we're above it, we can laugh at him, we're not laughing with him. But I think he's actually kind of getting off at platforming a comedian that is bigoted and does make sexist jokes, racist jokes, and as we'll see here, jokes against little people. So yeah, let's just start with this. We'll kind of start over on this compilation and play our way into the actual segment.
Jimmy, I gotta ask, so you said that your issue with people these days is that they're a little too sensitive.
Yes.
We've prepared a little something.
Listen, you're shrinking. Did you take preparation H?
I hate f***ing bitch, man. I don't want anybody sniffing around my fly unless they're serious.
I know which one it was.
Which one?
I don't like Ethan.
Oh,
I can't
stop
hide
it.
my feelings. Don't get mad. I just never liked it.
The word is very offensive. Okay, we don't use that word anymore.
I thought it was a pretty good joke.
Do you see what I mean when I talk about how Ethan gets off on platforming bigotry? Ethan didn't have to say the word that is derogatory for little people, and I'm just choosing not to say because I'm trying to be respectful. I know I'm platforming it too, but I'm trying to do it in a critical way. Ethan did not have to say that, but Ethan gets off on being able to say derogatory things. That's kind of where he came from. His past was making all of these edgy jokes, and now he can do it in an ironic way and criticize the jokes while still platforming those same ideas. Now he's confronting the edginess rather than being the edgy comedian himself, but he's still existing in this edgy, oh, I'm gonna insult people potentially, but I'm just like surfing on the edge of being too insulting versus being like too PC. I can exist in this kind of edgy world while still maintaining this veneer of being politically correct. And so Ethan's like, you know that the M word is very offensive to people, right? You shouldn't say it, but Ethan's saying it anyway. Like, look at how much he's enjoying this. It is really gross.
It's an old child joke.
What'd you think of that, Gary?
All right. So basically, we planned the intervention for the whole thing, and I was expecting my dad.
I mean, once again, saying an offensive word, but in the way that he's saying it, he can be like, I'm just accurately describing the way Jimmy Lee said it. And Ethan, apparently there's whole compilations of Ethan saying the N-word online. That's the exact same thing.
It's just a wonderful string of words. I love that I can just say though. It's so wonderful.
I can get away with it because someone else said
Well,
it.
who said?
An unfortunate gentleman whose Kickstarter I made fun of.
Well, it's almost like you're not even the racist. You're just like, this guy happened to say it, and I'm just living his memory.
Right.
That's a wonderful backstory because I feel like you get a lot of heat for saying that, but it's actually a wonderful little callback.
Yeah.
He gets off on potentially being like derogatory towards black people, but he's saying it ironically. He's just discussing someone else saying it. But dude, he gets a kick out of like being bigoted. I think that's pretty fair to say.
Ride for the social issue. He thought that was a highlight reel.
I mean, it's kind of like the same thing when AB was saying, Rudy Giuliani is saying that Palestinian kids get taught how to kill Americans by 2 years old. And Ethan's like, that's pretty spicy.
He was saying that Palestinians are taught at 2 years old to kill Americans.
That's pretty spicy.
Like, it kind of gives me that same vibe where he does get off on platforming bigotry.
Just brace yourself, guys. Go easy on my dad, please.
Some classic offensive humor. I think it's very clever and very smart, because if you're going to go after a minority group, who is less apt to hurt you than or little people, right? You make fun of other groups. They have big, serious, threatening people, not what are they going to do? Come up and kick you in the knee or something?
Yeah, I'm really glad you said that, Gary, because we actually...
Okay, so clearly he failed. He failed the test. But actually, the worst part is what comes next. And boy, just notice.
I mean, dude, this is so freaking gross. Imagine if it was like Ethan on the other foot and he was invited onto this podcast and they were like extremely anti-Semitic and they're like, oh, what are the Jews going to do? Lend you money and then ask for it to be returned? And then people are laughing about it and then they're like, oh, well, we have actually a Jewish person for you. Then they bring on Ethan Klein. How would that make Ethan Klein feel? If he thinks he's going to come on and talk about how anti-Semitism is a real issue, and then the context that they bring him onto the show is them making a bunch of anti-Semitic jokes, this is extremely rude. And the whole vibe of the show isn't that this is going to be educational. It is a kind of gotcha moment for these two old that are being very derogatory against little people. It's not, now we're going to educate these two guys. It's, haha, look at you. Don't you have egg on your face? Aren't you embarrassed? It's actually insane. And I'm like, look at how like happy Ethan is. Look at how gleeful he is when the other old guy, Gary, I guess it's Ethan's dad. Look at his face is literally like red. He's so gleeful because he's like, oh my God, this is going to be such a good setup to the punchline of bringing this guy on. Isn't this hilarious? They're being so bigoted right now, and now they're going to be confronted with this member of the minority they're being bigoted against. Haha, this is a great joke. This is going so well. These two old guys that I'm platforming are being maximally bigoted towards this group.
What are they going to do? Come up and kick you in the knee or something?
Yeah, I'm really glad you said that, Gary, because we actually...
Okay, so clearly he failed the test, and boy, just notice their face. I mean, all right, I'm just going to play it. Everybody tighten your sphincter.
Actually have a little person on the call. They've been listening. Dan is going to bring them in right now, and we can sort of open a dialogue here.
Dude, it's literally the joke of their faces. God, this is so... I did not realize it was this disgusting.
Okay, so this is Aubrey.
So far, so good.
Gary.
Hello, Aubrey.
Hi, Gary.
How you doing?
How you doing, kid?
Yeah, love you.
Oh, well.
Also, how is Ethan Klein's dad so much better looking than Ethan Klein? I'm just gonna put that out there right now. Like, he looks good as an old man. I did not realize that he was his dad until I read the title, Ethan's Dad Meets Jimmy Lee.
Thank you.
Even though you think I would come up and kick you in the shins.
Well, I have pretty low shins too, so.
And you guys are both pretty short, so I wouldn't really be coming after our community.
Ooh. Yeah, so this is Aubrey, a comedian who wrote to us a few weeks ago saying that he could talk to us about this whole Jimmy Lee arc.
Right.
Little people are. And so we had planned this call in, and the setup was just really, really rough, man. But here it goes. Let's see if either of them are going to learn anything.
Bro, why are you saying the setup was rough when you planned the setup yourself? You literally made like a few clips compiled of Jimmy Lee being bigoted towards little people. And then you played that, primed him up to be making jokes about little people while the guy was on the call. And now you're saying the setup was rough, like you had no agency over that? You orchestrated it. I mean, just once again, Ethan Klein saying the M word and then I mean little people. Sorry, it's little people. He just does not give a dude. Like, I know his dad was being towards that guy and he's the exact same sense of humor as Ethan, so that's relatable between them.
Shout out Aubrey, by the way. Oh yeah, here's the post. Many of you may have seen it. It says, I'm an actor with Dwarfism. I'm currently making a documentary comedy series special about a disability hate group on YouTube that's been cyberbullying me for over a year, named Jimmy Lee.
Oh, right.
Just kidding. I would love to call in tomorrow during the Tippy Toes segment and chat about Jimmy's...
Oh, right. The post was actually about the tip
right,
thing,
which
but then we knew we had this Jimmy thing planned, and so it ended up working out for that.
He says, I want to chat about Jimmy's little people phobia and do some dwarfism representation. So we knew we wanted to get him on the show. This is him, legend, and this is what we did, and I'm so sorry to him, of course.
Dude, he's
Oh,
literally...
does he break through?
He's literally fucking laughing when he says that he's so sorry. He's like, oh, I'm so sorry. And then he like cracks his smile. It's so tongue-in-cheek, man, from him. You can tell that he just does not care whatsoever about like what he's actually platforming. And this is his style of comedy, right? Edgy, bigoted jokes in the face of someone who is that minority group. And Ethan thinks this is peak comedy. And people call this mother comedian.
Jimmy, the comments that you made, you weren't really serious. Like you don't actually dislike little people, right?
This is an act.
Exactly.
And I'm a loving, big-hearted, nice guy that does a comedy act, and I don't mean anything I say. No, it's just intended to laugh at ourselves, Aubrey. That's all it is.
Right. No, yeah,
I love how Jimmy's thing is always, we got to laugh at ourselves. Who's ourselves? You're consistently glamming other people only.
I've been performing since in the entertainment industry, in the circus since I was 4. Now I do stand-up comedy. Trust me, I was not offended. I could tell it wasn't really a serious comment to begin with. Do you actually know any people with dwarfism?
I have patience.
Okay, who are little people?
So just notice they are doing a lot of cuts. This is a very edited interview that Aubrey had with these two old folks. So when Ethan says like, oh, we have receipts of everything that you did, notice that this conversation was edited. So there could have been extra context that we are missing now because this is a pre-recorded segment that they are now playing on their live episode. So we'll just run that back.
Do you actually know any people with dwarfism?
I have patience.
Okay, who are little people?
And I didn't do that joke on them, Aubrey, in the office, by the way.
Oh, I know, Jim. You come from a very different generation where there was very different representations, obviously, of little people. Even medically speaking, doctors used to still use the word midget, even though there's no such thing as a midget. We are people with dwarfism, and there's hundreds of types of dwarfism. So my only question was just, if you do know little people and you're not really scared of them, do you see how maybe that would have like real world implications for a group that has no representation?
I understand.
That is ever shown in a sexual or violent manner? Like, so I'm saying, even just as a comedian, I really just don't think that's the lane you want to go down.
Okay, I got you.
Do you see how it's nothing about if I find it offensive?
I understand.
I don't think you're that person, but as someone who's literally making a movie right now about how YouTube allows people to follow us around who sometimes are minors and go around calling us all of these names, but that aren't even names that are reflective of medical condition, literally just a slur. Like, I just figure that you are someone who doesn't actually hate little people.
I don't hate anybody. And Zach's been telling me to quit for years.
I think you should quit, but I definitely think you should realize that comedy can be sustained without literally using someone else as a punching bag. What do you feel? You can be honest, Jimmy.
No, I have plenty of other jokes. I don't have to use joke.
Everyone can be joked about. I just think of the offhandedness and the fact that you're just quick to move on to another joke where I get followed in stores and I have someone online who's been stalking and threatening and harassing me just because I have dwarfism. He calls it Midget Wednesday. And I think you would want to be associated with that.
No, I don't. I'm going to let that one go.
Jimmy, this is an iconic conversation then, you realize.
Well, I'm not ever going to do a little people joke again. We're going to knock that off the dock. We're letting it go after listening to you.
Can you look at me without your sunglasses and give that to me in the camera?
We're swearing off little people jokes.
Oh, he even got the term right.
Do it that easy.
I have a zillion other jokes. You can take the little people jokes out.
We appreciate your perspective, Aubrey. You've been very informative and enlightening, and I hope it's resonating.
I love talking and arguing. If I ever came across a certain way, please don't think you are not offensive in the way that you talk about little people that I hear every single day. So it's not about being offended at all.
It wasn't harmful intended. I just do comedy.
I love it. And again, I'm a comedian, guys. You don't know my humor too. So you don't know I could be just as, but
you can make fun of a Jew. I'm right here. Just don't shoot me.
We don't need to make
Two Jews.
Two Jews in planning a fire.
Two Jews walk into a bar.
There's lots of other content out there, and that's what I would just like to say.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you, Aubrey.
Jimmy, please look up YourAverageHypePeople.com, making a documentary comedy special about that disability hate group, because YouTube just doesn't care enough to protect small creators. So it's YourAverageHypePeople.com, and we're raising money right now to finish the film. Jimmy, you would love this. It's a comedy special, Jimmy. We're making fun of ourselves. We're making fun of everybody. The point is to bridge the gap between people like you and people like me.
We want to say one thing. Me and Guy are going to say it together. We love you.
Yeah, what he said.
Thank you, guys.
Aubrey,
yes.
thank you.
Okay.
It was great.
so much, Aubrey.
Thank you.
So
Take
much,
care.
Aubrey.
Good luck.
Whoa, that went better
you.
than I thought. I mean, there was a lot of finessing. You actually finessed that to making it look like Jimmy learned a valuable lesson.
So Ethan's even admitting that it was cut to make it seem like Jimmy learned a lesson when in reality he most likely didn't learn a lesson. What is this finessing? Is there the unedited clip of it? What the hell? Jesus, this is dark.
It was a bumpy conversation, I'll tell you what.
Yeah, I mean, they had to cut a lot for the sake of brevity, but it'll be in the final.
So it was not a lovely conversation. There was a lot of friction between the two old bigots and Aubrey.
But that was nice. But ultimately, in the end, actually, there was some progress with Jimmy there here, wearing off little people jokes, even using the correct term there.
You got to see his reaction at the end, though.
Let's see.
You too, guys.
Okay, bye-bye.
Oh, now I think I need to take my Metamucil. Am I allowed to use the toilet before we go to our next segment?
Sure.
I may throw up.
And definitely go in the bathroom.
Oh, it's stressful. Poor old Jimmy. You're gonna and puke. You did a generous job of cutting that together there, Cam.
Like I said, the final cut has the full context.
Yeah, that was some excellent editing, I must say, Cam.
Uh-oh, this was Jimmy 2 days ago? Oh, no. No, he did this 2 days ago? Wait. He had this conversation last week, so this was a few days after the intervention, and he posted, I hate them, Jimmy, what the
Oh my god. Yeah, so this whole segment is a bit about, oh, well, we got this guy to call out Jimmy. Isn't that funny? Yeah. It's not educational. It was literally caught up to have like a funny beginning, middle, and end. And now we have this, where it turns out he didn't actually change it all. Or he might be saying this ironically, but still. The whole point of Aubrey coming on and correcting him on the terminology is so that if you want to make jokes about little people, you kind of need to make informed jokes about little people and not at the expense of them.
We almost had another redemption arc. I hate them, man. All right, well, just to give you guys context, he has not learned his lesson. We actually have Audrey on the call to do a little bit of a debriefing.
No, we don't. What?
Isn't his name Aubrey? Did he just say his name wrong? Yeah, it's Aubrey. It's not Audrey. Dude, he doesn't even know the guy's name.
What?
No, we don't.
What?
We don't have. You just pulled that out of thin air.
Whatever. Shout out Audrey, everybody. What's the website?
It's Aubrey.
Aubrey. Website is.
It's been linked in the chat, but it's dearaveragehightpeople.com.
We'll drop the link in the description.
Yeah.
Go watch the members version and then tell me if you still like it.
Oh, so they paywalled the entire thing. Yeah, because their whole point was to educate. Okay, so that was a really gross segment.